Squirrels. They're known for their playfulness and resourcefulness. Some people think they're harmless, whereas some people think they're an annoyance to humans. I'm personally a fan of them. I walk past them every day on my way to campus. I find these small creatures fascinating. Whether they're climbing a tree, running across streets, creating a nest, climbing inside a waste bin, or eating a piece of bread, I always take a photo or video of these cute creatures whenever I see them. As urban environments force wildlife to adapt, it creates new behavior to observe. Research has shown that squirrels in cities change their behavior to adapt to new conditions. Although it may be fun to watch them climb inside waste bins or run off with a piece of bread, I wonder what are the greater implications of this. In this video essay, I hope to dive deeper into how squirrels have adapted into human-dominated landscapes and their broader impact on city ecosystems, as well as comparing them to rural squirrels and understand how squirrels and humans can coexist positively together. In the past, squirrels were a species that only lived in the eastern and midwestern North American woods, but over the past 200 years, eastern gray squirrels have adapted to city and suburban landscapes. The term for species which are living in an urban environment is suburban species. Suburban species are more successful than they are in their native natural habitats. Suburbanization is wildlife's response to global urbanization. Urban squirrels are different from rural squirrels. For example, urban squirrels are more powerful and tough in comparison to forest squirrels, and they're more fearless around humans. This fearlessness has a term called flight distance, which is basically how close a human can get to a squirrel before it runs away. I've found that I can get pretty close to a squirrel before it runs off. Usually I'm just a couple steps away from them. I think it's important to understand where urban squirrels originate from. In 1840s, cities imported squirrels to change the public green space. They were imported into Philadelphia, Boston, and New York. They were hoping the squirrels would make the space more beautiful and would inspire people living in the city to love animals. Squirrels were chosen because they could easily be tamed. They were even pets at one point in history. Squirrels were also imported into Canada, and it was common enough for there to be demand for live squirrel businesses. However, attitudes towards squirrels have changed over time as they have become stronger and less scared of humans. I've only had positive and normal experiences with squirrels, so I like them. I also like them because I find all animals cute, even rats, which I know not many people like, but I do. Squirrels are also incredibly popular queens, with 3 Instagram accounts being dedicated to queen squirrels being the proof, as well as the golden squirrel, which is famous at Queens. If the golden squirrel is sighted before midterms, it means you'll get bad marks, but if you see it after midterms, it means you'll get good marks. The golden squirrel helps to create community at Queens and is a way for midterms to be less stressful for students. I was able to find one article on a bad encounter that some Queens students had with a squirrel. According to the story, a squirrel had broken into a student's second room floor and was eating a mixed bag of nuts. The author said that they had never been as impressed by a queen squirrel until that moment. The author of the article said that the squirrels around the Queen's campus had always scared them, and that incident confirmed it even more. The author in the article also mentioned one of their friends who believes squirrels are evil. They believe this because of squirrel break-ins or sightings of them rummaging around garbage bags. I also found a BuzzFeed article where the author said, quote, "A queen squirrel is like a regular squirrel on steroids with anger management issues. The queen squirrels have no fear of humans, yet we fear them. The squirrels have the upper hand," end quote. I personally do not believe this makes a squirrel evil. I just think it is a result of them living in a human-dominated space. With this being said, we should think about how squirrels and humans can coexist positively together. One of the most clear ways in which urban squirrels are different from rural squirrels is what kinds of food they have access to. Squirrels have access to artificial, sugary, non-natural food in urban areas. One study compared blood samples of urban and rural eastern gray squirrels. The results show that urban squirrels had higher glucose levels in comparison to rural squirrels. A sample size study was also done on 13 male Eurasian red squirrels from an urban area and 7 male Eurasian red squirrels from a large natural forest. where they were placed in an outdoor enclosure for 13 to 18 days. The squirrels were fed 4 types of natural food and 4 types of supplemented food. The urban squirrels consumed more food per day than the forest squirrels. Both kinds of squirrels preferred fat-rich hazelnuts, but urban squirrels had a wider range of food, and they ate more non-natural food in comparison to forest squirrels. The study shows how urbanization changes squirrels' food preferences. I have witnessed squirrels eating human food on my way to campus a few times, which they most likely got through whipping through a black trash bag left at the front of a student house on garbage collection day. It is best to store trash in bins, but even with bins, I find online that squirrels will still chew through the plastic lid. To prevent this, one method which I found online is to cut a piece of mesh that is used for patio screens using wire cutters and place the piece on the inside of the trash lid, then use glue to ensure that the piece of mesh is secure on the lid. Then the lid is placed back on and the squirrels will not be able to chew through the lid anymore. I also want to know the ecological impacts that squirrels have on the environment and how they can contribute to biodiversity. One of the most important ways that eastern gray squirrels have contributed to urban ecosystems is through foraging. As squirrels collect nuts and seeds, they disperse seeds throughout the city. One example is how squirrels bury acorns in parks and cities. In a couple of months, it becomes an oak sapling and adds to the city's urban greenery. I've also observed squirrels gathering many leaves and climbing up trees with them to create nests in Kingston. Eastern gray squirrels are known for being resourceful with nests. For example, some eastern gray squirrels have been using nooks of buildings for nesting. It is very important that squirrels have urban green spaces with trees so that they have access to natural vegetation and do not disturb residential areas. A higher number of tree density positively impacts squirrels because it provides more space for them, but also because they will be connected to other parks more. Mostly, I've seen squirrels in Kingston climbing the trees that are around Matt Quarry with a nut in their mouth or leaping from tree to tree, which is a good sign. And I've only seen a squirrel eating human food a couple times around here. Queen's University is an expansive campus and has a lot of areas with trees, which is great for the Queen's squirrels. I've never had an encounter with an aggressive squirrel on the Queen's campus, which I think is because I don't live right on campus. I live a 15-minute walk away, so the squirrels I see are much calmer. Urban squirrels will also have different stressors from rural squirrels. The biggest stressor for squirrels in rural habitats is the threat of predators, whereas the biggest threat for urban squirrels will be human-induced stressors such as cars, humans, and artificial light and noise. While discussing squirrels with my friends, one of them told me that the red squirrel population is declining in England because they have to compete with the black squirrel population. He told me that both red squirrels and black squirrels eat the same type of berry, but the problem is red squirrels cannot eat them until they're sprouted, where the black squirrels can eat them when they're still buds. I have noticed that most of the squirrels I see around campus are black squirrels, but as far as I'm aware, I do not think there are any issues with invasiveness here. Throughout the summer to now, I noticed many roadkill squirrels on the streets on my way to the Queen's campus. I would say I probably saw 5 to 6 dead squirrels in total. I saw them on Brock Street by Victoria Park, which is a main road in Kingston. So many cars pass through the street. A solution to this would be to create more green spaces in Kingston so that squirrels do not feel the need to be on the main street where there are not many trees. One study found that gray squirrels' response to urbanization improved when green space in cities improved by 20% in the total area of the city. Green space is also important for students as it helps to maintain our well-being, and green space on college campuses is associated with a higher quality of life. In terms of threat to humans, I've noticed that the squirrels in Montreal allow humans to get closer to them than squirrels in Kingston. I was able to get close to a squirrel in Montreal to take a picture of it, but I find that the squirrels here do not allow me to get as close. I believe that the squirrels in Montreal allow humans to get closer to them because Montreal is more urban than Kingston, so they interact with more people, more sounds, and more activity, so that is probably why they were not as scared of people. In conclusion, researchers have found that squirrels in urban settings have different behavior than squirrels in rural settings. Squirrels are a representation of the steps that humans have taken to make cities more livable, as they were originally introduced to make city life more pleasant. Whether people like squirrels or dislike squirrels, they're a symbol of a green city. Maintaining the balance between squirrels and humans in urban spaces is tricky. Planning and having coexistence as a core value should be taken into consideration for cities. It is important that cities are aware of ecological needs so we can support urban biodiversity. Through my research, I found that there are challenges between squirrels and humans, but through a few methods I have provided, it can hopefully improve the relationship between squirrels and humans in a humane way that does not harm the squirrels and can improve universities' students' perceptions of urban squirrels.